and gentlemen, welcome to the Mental Health Marvels podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Hines, and we are mental health stewards of change for people in pain. We are here for people who have gone through hell, come out the other side, and are changing their lives to do good for others. And right now, we are sitting with, from across the pond, the one, the only, Mr. DAIRE MAHON, all the way from Ireland. DAIRE, how are you, my friend?
I'm good, Kevin. I'm good.
So tell me, what part of Ireland?
Kevin,
Oh, yeah.
I'm in Kingscourt, which is in County Cavan, which is about 1 hour's drive west of Dublin.
Okay.
So I'm quite close to Dublin, really, 80 kilometres.
Oh, great. Okay. And what? Tell me a little bit about yourself and your life story out there in Ireland.
Well, basically, I guess the reason I'm here today is because I guess I had a good life. I always would have been quite a sporty guy. I would have been outdoors during my youth, playing Gaelic football or soccer or anything like that. And that continued on through my teens and into my 20s. But I guess things got complicated when I left education because I found myself quickly in a situation where not a lot of things that I could see were going in the direction I wanted them to go in. I felt in my work, I felt I had a lot of. I felt I was in a situation where I wasn't getting on as well with the other co-workers that I should have been, and then I felt with money I was kind of squandering money, and also with things like being prescribed medication for a person that was depressed. I wasn't being honest and taking the medication regimentally like I should have been. So all these factors combined to a situation where on the 5th of July 2014, I was in a position where I was chronically unwell in a mental state where I felt it was a life or death situation that I was about to put myself in. I was on my own at the time, which was a major problem I felt, because in hindsight, if someone had been there, you never know. It could have been the difference between following through with what I felt I was about to do, or it's being stopped in its tracks and just being a mere thought. So what happened was I was living on the 3rd floor in an apartment block, and I walked to the window in the kind of the living area where I was living. I had been sitting down at the sofa kind of contemplating what I was about to do, but I decided that I was going to do it. I was hell-bent on doing it. I walked to the window. It was an old sash window, so I had to lift it up. I ducked underneath, I stood on the ledge, and I jumped. Basically woke up 2 weeks later, Kevin. I was in an induced coma for a while when I was in hospital, and I basically don't remember anything for about 2 weeks. So in that time, what had happened was I had been found by a woman who was actually living next door in the apartment block next door to where I had been living. So she had actually found me on the ground. I had severe injuries at the time, and she called for an ambulance. I think there might have been 1 or 2 other people present. The ambulance came within a matter of minutes. They put me onto a stretcher, loaded me into an ambulance, and brought me to the hospital. I've learned through over time that my parents were contacted. They were told of what happened. They were devastated, obviously, and they knew about my depression, and they knew it had actually been quite severe at the time. I don't think they expected anything like that. It was, for me, it was something which was totally out of character, but it was something which I felt in that moment had to be done. I obviously have massive regrets about that, because it's something I think about on a daily basis, and I think of all the reasons why I could have prevented what happened. But then I've learned that this is something that is quite common in today's society, and is becoming more common. I see so many YouTubers now, and they're talking about self-harm and all this kind of stuff. And I was really adverse to all of that until this happened. It opened my eyes, and it was probably the biggest wake-up call I've ever had in my entire life.
Wow, brother, I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad you didn't die. You know, had either of us passed away from our attempts, we would have never met each other and become the friends we are today. Very lucky and blessed to know you and have you in our lives.
Thanks, Kevin.
You
Thank
bet,
you.
brother.
And thank you to Margaret as well. I haven't had the privilege of meeting Margaret yet, but I know that when I've seen your YouTube videos, she's there to support you and help you, and I think that's vital, not only for yourself, Kevin, to ease some of the burden, because at times it can feel like that, but also to have that moral support, and that presence that Margaret has for you there. And obviously you're together in the Kevin and Margaret Hines Foundation, which is pretty awesome as well. Because the one thing which people are amazed by, Kevin, when I tell them about your story, is they can't believe about that basically you and Margaret are driving to get these nets put up on the Golden Gate Bridge. I know it's a mere matter of time now before that's done, and it's just an incredible thing, because when I hear so many people, as I've got older, I've heard so many people, whether it's football players or businessmen, and they talk about legacy this and legacy that. I mean, to me, what you're doing there is legacy. Like, it's unbelievable.
Let's do that. Let's give a shout out to Miss Margaret Hines, my lovely wife, who's in the other room right now, and tell her that we love her and we're grateful for her. She's absolutely changed the face of my destiny and changed my life forever. And it's great to hear what you say, that you see that all the way across from Ireland, that there's a great bond there and something phenomenal happening with the work we're doing. I really appreciate that, man. That means a lot.
No problem, man. No problem.
So, brother, you played sport. You can't now today play sport because of your injuries that you don't play sport today, or
it's not good. Funny enough, I had when I was playing sport, I played from about the age of 6 or 7. That's when I started kicking a Gaelic football for the first time, and I continued right up until my mid-20s. I was 25 when, after 2 ACL injuries and a cartilage tear, I'd had 3 keyhole operations. I just couldn't run or compete to the same level that I'd been at before those injuries. So that was, I feel, the first injury was the trigger of the depression, because all of a sudden now I had lost that ability to be active. I remember myself and my brother, we just used to sit, I'd be on the sofa, he'd come home from college, and we'd just sit down and watch episodes of The Wire on DVD. That's enjoyable. It's nice to have some time in your hands and, watch DVDs or whatever and be with your brother. But it wasn't what in my mind I wanted to be doing. I wanted to be out competing against other people of the same age and playing Gaelic football. So with the depression, that was difficult, because, like I said earlier, I wasn't really being honest with taking my medication. What I mean by that is, and I'm sure this is a common problem for a lot of young people, even older people, is you rebel against it. It's almost like taking the medication convinces you that there's something completely wrong with you, that you're somehow totally different from other people, So I rebelled against it. I didn't want to take it. That caused more problems, and my solution most of the time was just go out and drink alcohol with other friends that I'd known from college. Just basically go out and get drunk or whatever and come home, and it was kind of self-defeating, really, because it was making the problem twice as bad as it probably should have been. If I'd been regimental about taking my medication, particularly around the time of the incident, then I feel it would have definitely curbed the possibility of what was about to happen.
And when you were drinking, were you drinking too much? Was it substance use, you think?
I drink to get drunk. I could drink, no problem. I could drink maybe 5 or 6 bottles of beer before I'd even go out into the city. Like, And then in the city, you'd be drinking spirits. So you could be drinking shots of anything like.
So you were overusing
So
you were overusing alcohol to cope.
yeah, I was abusing alcohol.
Abusing alcohol, and how long did that alcohol abuse relationship last, and where are you today with alcohol?
Well, at the time, it was sort of an ongoing thing because, well, when I was in college, you see, with the injuries initially from sport, it was an ongoing thing. But then I was working a Monday to Friday, so really, when I graduated from college, so after that, obviously, it was a weekends, Friday night, Saturday night, sometimes even Sunday night as well, if I was, if I felt it was kind of worthwhile. And then, that obviously was not a good way to kind of, I suppose you're trying to be a young professional, but I certainly wasn't, living up to that status because I was just trying to, I was trying to kind of mask my reality by drinking too much, and that was becoming a huge problem. Now, today, it's not as much of a problem. Yeah, I'm not going to sit here and say I haven't been drunk over the last, we'll say, 6 months. There probably has been times when I've probably drank a couple of drinks too much, but it's not nearly a problem now. Because if I'm going drinking now, it's maybe once a month. So that's, curbed it straight away. And to me, in Ireland, we do have a serious drinking culture. Anything that's relating to celebration or sorrow, which is pretty much every occasion you can imagine, Kevin, is basically.
I've been in Ireland during those.
There's alcohol present, and it's very difficult to say no in a lot of cases. I'm getting better at that, but I haven't quite mastered it yet. As I said to you, I'd be in a much better place than I was 5 or 10 years ago now, and much more, probably because I'm a wiser person, I'm a more mature person now, but also because I realized that it's not something that is actually, you can't continue to do that, because it's going to create problems in other aspects of your life,
Yeah. And let me ask you this now, DAIRE. Have you ever attempted again?
No, but I'll tell you, I've been in a situation where I was at home with a rope, and I was here in my room, in this very room that I'm talking to you from, and the biggest problem I had was I couldn't figure out how to tie a knot in the rope. I'm terrible. Like, if I try to tie knots in my shoelaces, that's a big problem for me. But I did try to tie a knot in the rope, and I hung the rope from. I have like in my room here. I'll just show you. There's like a step ladder there, and there's like a bar that goes across it. And on the bar that goes across it, I was able to get the rope kind of locked in, but the knot wasn't strong enough because as I said to you, I'm not great at tying knots or anything like that. But I did, as I said to you, that particular day, I did think about it. I still don't really, I can't say I honestly believed that I was going to do it that day, whereas in comparison to the first attempt, I really was believing that what I was about to do, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so I did think about it, yeah. I did think about it, but I didn't go through with it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. How did you find the hope to not go through with it? How did you find the light at the end of the tunnel?
How do I've tried to. There's a certain amount you can learn from other people, and to be honest, I'm quite a positive guy anyway, Kevin. I just always have been, and how do I find the light? I find the light by just trying to understand that I still have goodness in me. There's a lot of goodness in me that I was given by God, a lot of talents that I have that maybe other people may or may not have. But by remaining positive in my own mind and by just trying to live on a day-to-day, but be happy with that and be happy to be here, that has got me through. Because at the end of the day, I might have been in an eternal sleep for all I know on the 5th of July.
Yeah.
But now the fact that I'm here, regardless of what anyone says, I am here to stay for the long haul. And there was a day, Kevin, it wasn't the same day that I was talking about earlier, but there was a day when I actually Facebooked you and things weren't going my way. I felt in my mind, I felt my outlook was bleak, and I felt there was a lot of things getting me down, and I asked you for some help. I reached out to you, and you told me I got to play the long game, and that's a very clever way of explaining it to somebody. You got to stay in there. You know, it's in Gaelic football. If we lost a game, we certainly didn't let it affect us or get to us. We were always told by our manager, you move on to the next game and you look for success, and you learn from your mistakes. You don't let them define you. And I think that's something that I've heard a lot of people say. And to be honest, for a long time I didn't understand what they were talking about, Kevin. I would hear people say, yeah, don't let it define you, and this word was thrown around, and I know what they mean now. It's basically that you don't let it upset you or put you back in a position where you could harm yourself again.
Yeah.
You move on with it, and you like I said to you at the start, when we were talking off air, you try to look forward and not look back so much, you know.
You know, I always tell people in my presentations that you don't let the pain defeat you. You let it build you brick by brick from the ground up. If you let your pain build you, and if you can have gratitude inside your pain, you can always defeat it. And that's hard for people to do, have gratitude inside pain. But think about that. If you're grateful for the struggles, you're even more grateful for the successes. You know, you can see through
Something else I learned was that when I knew that you were coming to Dublin that time, Kevin, to speak, and I wanted to meet you because I felt it was something that was really important for me. I'm sure there are a lot of people that have been in this situation that me and you have gone through, and they feel they don't have the voice, or they feel they shy away from it, or they don't want to come out and talk for whatever reason. And I think it's more because we'll never know why. It can differ from person to person, but I feel that certainly in Ireland, you're put on this like guilt trip, you know, and it's incredible. Like I would find that, like, even in my town's a rural town, that if I go into certain shops or if I go into certain pubs or something, it's nearly like I've walked in, you know, for the first time, and people don't know who I am. You know what I mean? Yeah. So what I'm saying to you is, I'm saying that that getting an opportunity like this to talk and explain what's happened to me can only benefit somebody else down the line that's going through that, because I felt 100%, even after meeting you, Kevin, that there were times when I was totally unique, that my situation was unique to basically any other person, that what I had done was seen as the worst thing, or that there was no way back from it, and how I've dealt with that is just managing the day, get through the day literally, and the next day you wake up and you realize, you're like, why the hell was I thinking that? Or someone has sent a text message to remind me, like, you know, hey DAIRE, how are you? Do you want to meet up for a coffee or something? Like I said earlier, I'm not actually working at the minute, which is a bit of a pain in the ass for me, but it's one of those things that I'm trying to sort out. But what I do a lot with my spare time is I meet up with my friends just for a coffee, and we could literally spend an hour, 2 hours talking. And a big subject we always talk about is mental health, because Ireland has moved forward a lot from from even 20 years ago, where it was almost looked upon as like a sin of God or something to attempt to kill oneself or harm oneself, whatever way you want to word that. And now people are talking, which is great. because I know the reason you've been so successful, Kevin, is because you're not only have you been through hell, you've come out the other side, and you can explain it very simply for people. And I think that's crucial, because nobody wants somebody to go up and start talking to them about statistics and, telling them that everything in the world is fantastic. I don't think that's the reality at all.
No.
Especially not in today's world, where, the world is a tough place, like, let's be honest. And when I hear you talking, Kevin, it is great to hear you. Like, you can get up in front of any person, and you can, whether it's the army or whether it's women in let's say, I can't think of the name of that chat show you were on recently. I thought it was like Ellen or something, but it was kind of similar to it. Or even on the news, it's difficult. People don't want to. A lot of people would say, "Oh yeah, look at that guy. He's got everything. He's come from nothing, and now he has everything." But it doesn't happen like that. Nothing happens overnight in the world, and also you've got to stay super positive all the time, haven't you?
It's interesting you bring that up, because there's so many people that are like, oh look, he's doing fine now. He's wearing the suit, he's wearing the tie, and he's cured now. That's not the case. I still have every symptom I've ever had in my life. I still have every struggle I've ever had. I just know how to manage it and put it into a box and put it into these four corners, as my dad would say, where they're in parameters, and I know how to protect myself from myself. And that really is all about going to Margaret and saying, honey, I need help now, and this is what's going on. These are the thoughts I'm having. Can you please help me? And she will, and I'll make sure I'm safe. Or if I need to go to a psych unit, I'm going to go. As difficult as those places are, I'm going to go and get the help I need. And so what I really appreciate about you, DAIRE, is that your ability to be self-aware, like me, in the face of your pain, is going to always keep you here. You are going to be here tomorrow and every day after that, because you have that positive outlook, even after what you did. And yes, in your town, in your area, in your community, there might be people that look down upon what you did and treat you poorly, but you recognize that you did this, you survived, and now you're trying to help other people stay. And that's really special, DAIRE. That's really fantastic.
Thanks, Kevin. Thank you.
Do you need a minute?
The other thing is, my dad was trying to come into the room.
Oh, okay.
Actually, that's something else that I have only touched on, is family in general. I know we were talking about Margaret and how much help she's given you. Well, I can tell you, my parents have been unbelievably helpful for me, because the thing was, when I had that incident or accident or whatever way you want to call it, event happened to me, at the time I didn't have a lot of money, and I hadn't really many options. I felt at the time like one of the options was to go back into what I was doing previously, but that was not going to happen, because even when I look back at it, I think, Jesus, I avoided something majorly negative happening, a negative situation happening there. And the second option was move home. So I've moved home. I've been living here for basically since 2014. So 5 years? Yeah. And it is a huge weight off my shoulders to know that there are people who are like no more than your father, Kevin, that helped you, and I'm sure your mother as well, that helped you through the tough times. I mean, it's unbelievable. Like I'll never be able to repay them,
That's right.
Because the only way I can repay them is just by living every day. And by living every day, they feel that I'm on the right track, and I'm trying to move forward with my life, and I'm trying to get on with things. But as I said to you, to have that humility from other human beings, even though they're your parents, they're your blood, I mean, it's still fantastic to have it,
Absolutely.
And I have a brother that's in London. I have a sister that's in Dublin. So for that, I don't see them on a daily basis, but we chat a lot, particularly on WhatsApp and things like that, and Facebook chat and stuff. And so I know that when the shit hit the fan on the 5th of July 2014, they were heavily affected by it.
Yeah.
And again, I can't quantify in my mind how it affected them, but I know, you know, they're a lot better now. Time is a healer, you know. At the time, I'm sure it was horrific for them. You know, to have their younger brother for something like that to happen, you know. But I just think of it, what keeps me well when I think of that is I just think, well, if the shoe was on the other foot and I was one of them, I would be there for that person, you know, because that was like the first phase of kind of like this like post-traumatic stress disorder that I had when I got out of hospital. I kept feeling the blame or the guilt, you know, of that I like, for example, in your story, Kevin, I remember hearing that when your father came to you for the first time and when you were in hospital, you didn't want that guilt to belong to either of you, so you just let it be. And it's difficult to do that, you know, but I've got a lot better at doing that over time. You know, I've certainly you know, we do it from just chatting with each other. We repair those emotional bonds, you know, that were probably somewhat damaged that day, you know.
We have to try.
But yeah, it's great to have family. Great to have family.
I'm really glad that we both have such great support networks. What do you think about the people who don't have a great support network, or they have an abusive or neglectful home, or a difficult home life, or they have people?
What do I think?
What do you think about?
Yeah,
if you had a message for the people that
I think there'll always be someone close to you. If it's not someone that's in your immediate family, and it's really not, go to a friend, go to somebody professional, seek help, find somebody to talk to. There's always going to be somebody that will lend you an ear. If it's not your family, I feel bad for that person, but they got to find someone else. They really have to, because you have to talk to people to ease your pain, and to find solutions to problems that you're going to have. That's really all I could say about that.
Fair enough. What do you see your life looking like in the next 5 to 10 years? What are you looking to do with your life, either to benefit others or to benefit yourself?
Well, I'll put it this way to you: the last sort of 2 years, I've only really been in work for about 2 months in total.
Yeah.
In the last 2 years, and that has made me realize something that I had always thought about and was never quite sure about, which is money, right? I was never great with money, as in I would kind of buy stuff online and stuff like that, and maybe use it once and never use it again. But in the last 2 years, I've been dependent on welfare payments. So every week there's a welfare payment on a Monday. So I go up to my local post office and I hand in my ID card, and they swipe it through and they give you a payment. And I can tell you now, by having my money cut, I've actually realized what is important and what's not. And I've actually got a lot better at saving money now. And it's something that's very important, because we all have the rainy days. Like, for example, I drive a car and I know I have to pay car insurance, car tax, stuff like that, petrol, whatever. And it can be, it's probably my biggest expense. I'm not paying anything for rent, thank God, because I'm living with my family and they've been very nice to me that way. But the point I'm making is, it's a big consideration at this time of your life, because a lot of the guys that are my age that live around here, Kevin, they already have a wife, they have a family, they have children, they have cars, they have property, some of them, land, some of them. I don't really have any of that stuff. Do you know what I mean?
But you have your life.
It's kind of made me rethink where I was going, like, because the truth of the matter is, what actually happened to me in terms of, you know, my mental and physical well-being, who's to know, it could have actually come out, arisen in some other way. Because as I said to you, if what happened hadn't happened, I wouldn't have had to rethink a lot of what I was doing. Because I was taking a lot of things for granted. And money was a big aspect to that, because it was kind of the root of a lot of the problems that I was having, you know. And so now that I'm at home, I'm able to save a certain amount. It's just a small amount every week. I have all the basic routine of first thing in the morning I take my medication, and last thing at night I take my medication. I have my dogs at home. They're fantastic. Dogs are unbelievably clever at knowing when your mood is down, and they find ways to, whether they lick you or whether they come up beside you on the sofa or whatever it is, and they find ways to make you happy. I've great parents, like I said, great brother and sister, and some really solid friends that have given me a major boost during tough times, and still do. And my outlook on life, listen, I'm like any single guy that walks the planet. We all think maybe I might meet a girl at some time and settle down. I'd like to do that, and more importantly, with the work, which is more of a kind of the here and now. I'm going to try, with the help of a very nice town councillor. He's kind of political figure in our town, Kevin. He's going to try and help me get a job as a clerical officer, which would be basically like being a secretary in a primary school. So I really want to do something like that, because A, you're working with children, which I'm good at, and I've good enough sense of humour to get on with them. B, because let's be honest, the primary school has a fantastic benefit in that June, July, and August are 3 months of holidays. So let's be honest. And C, because it would be close to my parents. And for now, while I live at home, I'm just going to accept that. But in the future, I would like to build my own place close to their home.
Good.
So that's my three kind of immediate plans.
I think what I get from that is that you used to take things for granted. Now you do not, and you hold great appreciation for everything you currently have, and that you're living in the present, and you're just okay with just being who you are, what you are, and where you are, which is really important, Dar, because there's a lot of people who don't appreciate where they are when they really have it all really well set out for them, and they've got meals to eat every night, which a lot of people don't. They've got a bed to sleep in. They got people who love and care for them, and they don't appreciate that. And I think that listening to your appreciation for that really inspires me, and I can be right in tune with what you're saying, which is fantastic. I think you appreciating that and holding gratitude for everything you do have is pertinent.
There's something else which kind of drove me, and the whole time, and it still drives me today, and I kind of touched on it when previously in writing to you today, and it was that this feeling of inadequacy, sometimes, and it can happen for no reason, and I'm sure it happens to a lot of people. I'm sure that there's something they're not proud of, or some mistakes they made in their past, or something that has made them feel inadequate, But the way I look at it now is, after what's happened to me, is that from a religious level, if there is a God, and there is, we'll say, whether or not there's an afterlife or a heaven or a hell or whatever way you want to look at it, right? The way I look at it is, and I'm sure everybody's got an opinion on this, I look at it that if I was not enough, that's fair enough. I can accept that if there was some sort of judgment or afterlife or heaven or hell. But I wouldn't take it lying down, that's for sure. And I think that's why I'm still here, because I believe that God is good. And I believe that even now, despite my flaws or mistakes or you know, sins or whatever way you want to look at it, that I am enough. And if there is such a thing as a heaven or an afterlife, that it should be good for me, and it should be good for you, Kevin, and it should be good for anybody listening to this that was in a situation where they felt really bad to the extent that, you know, it somehow changed their view of religion, or it changed their view. And I'm not trying to get in too strong on that. I'm just saying from the basics here of what I have been taught, certainly as a kind of a Catholic, Roman Catholic. I'm not a practicing Roman Catholic by any means, but I am a Christian. And no more than, you know, Kevin Hines believing that the sea lion that day was his God, for what it's been is being this internal feeling of so many people want to knock me down, you know, that I feel like at times want to knock me down. But I know if I just keep persisting, I'll make it, if you know what I mean. And it doesn't have to be even a heaven or a afterlife, wherever that people feel that they're going in their life, whatever, you know, kind of adventure they're on, or wherever path they feel they're going. I think that's why we all persist with life. You know, that's why we know that suicide is not the answer, because to persist with life, it can be more difficult, and it's obviously certainly going to take a lot longer to get there. But I feel something good is going to come of it at the end. That's what I feel.
Dar, I think we're going to end it right there, my man. That is fantastic. Right. That's a beautiful message from you to us. Thank you for being on the podcast. We greatly appreciate your time and effort. Ladies and gentlemen, family and friends, Dar MAHON from Ireland, a man with great wisdom and knowledge about life, living to its extent, and being happy with what you have, and content, and feeling appreciation for all that you've been given. Guys, this is the Mental Health Marvels podcast, where we can all be marvels of stewards of change for people in mental pain. And if you are out there and you are hurting and you're in crisis, please text, if you're in America, CNQR to 741 741. Will be across the screen right now. Text CNQR to 741 741. Call the National Suicide Prevention Hotline, 1-800-273-8255, +1 for military. You also see that across the screen. That may be changed to a 988 number pretty soon, or by the time this video comes out, to be aware of that. If you're internationally known and you're around the globe, you can go to suicide.org to find the crisis centers nearest to you. And my request to you, my friends, is whatever you're going through, whatever pain you're dealing with, be here tomorrow and every damn day after that. You are valued, you are worthy, you are loved, and you matter. And if nobody else says it today, we love you and we want you to stay. Take care, guys. Be well and be here tomorrow.